Here I want to talk about the function Stringify and the opposite of that function, which is parse. So let's clean this up. This is from our previous example. Let's clean this up and just start with this developer object here. We know what an object is now. And what we want to do is we can console log the whole object. And let's build up our example. So we can run this. Let's save it and run it. And let's do something like this. And we'll see that we're printing the developer object, right? And that's fine. It's exactly what we want. But let's say that what we want now is we want to store this object, right? This developer object as a string and not as an object itself. So what we could do is at that point is we can say, let's create a variable. Let's call it a string version, and let's make it equal to well, this is what we call the JSON object, and we'll call the Stringify method, and we'll pass in the developer object. And now if I go ahead and I console log this, console log, here, let's do console log string version, and we'll run this. Let's see exactly what we get. Well, now, let's clear it and do it again. Now what we see is that here, this is the object that we printed the first time, and this is the string version. You can tell that it made it into JSON, meaning that the first key, right, the key colon value, well, notice how the keys are in parentheses now, where in the code we didn't have parentheses. We're just printing literally what that object, how that object was defined. So you can see already that this is the string version of this object. And I guess the question is, when would we want to do this? Well, sometimes we do want to convert an object into a string representation so that we can display it on the screen, or we can send it to the database, send it to the server, save it on the client side, on session storage, on local storage. There could be many different reasons, but the idea is that we do have this available to us, this Stringify function. And so the cool thing is that, yeah, we could do that. By the way, there is more that you could do with the Stringify function. Notice how here this is not as neat as this. So the Stringify function does have some parameters. One is the replacer, and that is when you want to replace a value for something else. We're going to just pass in null here. And here, after the replacer, we can say how many spaces, and we can say 2. And that's going to indent by 2 and make it a little bit neater. So let's clear this and run this again so you can see exactly what happens. And you can see that it gets indented by 2, right? Every attribute, every key key value pair gets indented by 2. So this is really neat to know about the Stringify function. So what's one cool thing to note? Well, note that I guess I'll leave it here, but the last thing I want to leave with you is the following, which is note that when you take the developer, right, this developer, you can say, let's just get out these console logs. We can say something like console log, and then we could say developer.notation, get me the first name. We know that's going to be Ed, right? And if we run this, we'll see this. This is going to be Ed. And at the same time, we could not do this with this string version, right? We can't say string version dot first name. Why? Because the developer is the code, so it's the object. So we can have dot notation, all right, to access attributes and functions from an object, technically a method from the object, but we can't do that with a string. We can't use dot notation within a string because this is all this is. It's just a string. We can't use dot notation for that. It's not an object. So just to prove it to you, let's run this now. And I did not save it, so I apologize. Let's save it now and run it again. we'll see that the first one is the object notation one, and this is the string dot, right? And we can't do that. That's undefined. We can't do that. So I guess one thing you could do is you could say, hey, look, let's take the string version, right? And this string version, let's map it back over to an object. And after we get it over to an object, then go ahead and invoke or get the first name. And you'll see that this, in fact, will work. So we do get the second add here. And so that's exactly what this parse function does, right? From the JSON object. It reverts, well, it doesn't revert, it takes that string representation and converts it over to a real object that we can deal with in the JavaScript programming language. I hope this is helpful.